Recording in progress. All right. We're doing episode 6 today. We're going live on Facebook. Hello, everyone. I believe I'm live on Facebook. Happy Tuesday, like every other Tuesday. Let's see. Got it. How's everyone doing? Let's see if I'm live. Yes, I am live. So, thank you for joining our Facebook Live again this week. We are very excited about every single one of our episodes. I can't believe it's getting dark so fast. It feels like it's 9 p.m. and it's just 6. So I don't know if for the ones that view our episodes. So we had our annual turkey giveaway yesterday, and it was great. For the ones that don't know, Realty of Chicago, we host turkey giveaways every single year right before Thanksgiving. So we give out turkeys, we give out other items like drinks. We also raffle out a lot of great items. So here in the North Side, we raffled out TVs, air fryers, gift cards. So yeah, that was yesterday, and it was such a great time. We enjoyed it very much. For the ones that joined us, thank you. For the volunteers, thank you for volunteering. So yeah, so now you know. And if you don't know, or if you didn't join us next year. Okay. So let's start with our Facebook Live. I just wanted to give a little time for people to log in. I guess I've been doing okay because I'm back. So thank you for all of your feedback. I've gotten great feedback. Again, this is totally out of my comfort zone, but I'm going at it. And we'll continue doing Facebook Lives. This is episode 6. And as I mentioned last week and the previous weeks, we do these Facebook Lives, these videos for many of you that are interested in knowing more about the home buying process and what goes in it. And yeah, we just go over every single step of the process in detail, and we also have guest speakers join us. So today, as I mentioned, is attorney review, and we have a special guest. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure I am still good. So today we have a special guest. Her name is 𝐄𝐲𝐢𝐬𝐻 Shah. We have actually had her as a guest in our previous videos. She's great. She's been in the industry for a very long time, and is here to answer any questions you may have. So without further ado, I'm going to invite 𝐄𝐲𝐢𝐬𝐻 Shah to our Facebook Live. Let's see. 𝐄𝐲𝐢𝐬𝐻, can you hear us? Or can you hear me? Hi,
Can you
𝐄𝐲𝐢𝐬𝐻.
see me? Hi.
Yes, I can see you and we are live. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Of course. Hi, how are you?
I am well. I'm well. I'm well. So I was just explaining in our video just, what we're going to go over today, which is attorney review. But before we get started, I would like for you to introduce yourself. How long have you been in real estate, and yeah, and who are you with?
Sure. I'm Avni Shah. I am at Bell & Shaw. We have a boutique law firm in Bucktown and also Arlington Heights. We've been in practice for 17 years. Since 2005, we've done a number of closings. So we have a ton of experience when it comes to first-time home buyers, sellers, investors, new construction, etc. We have a team of 4 attorneys, paralegal, assistant, etc. So we are very experienced and responsive when it comes to real estate as far as closings, etc. So very experienced and ready to answer any questions that you guys have.
Marvelous. We actually caught Avni just leaving the office, right, Avni?
Yes, I'm in the car. I apologize. I just had a number of closings that were happening. So yeah, I'm in the car until I get home.
That's good. Well, thank you for joining us, and that's perfectly fine. Closings are good. So congratulations on that. We'll
Thank
keep
you.
it short so you're able to go home soon. But so yeah, thank you for introducing yourself. So we want to go over today why having an attorney in a transaction is important, and what exactly is attorney review. So
Sure.
can you help us with that?
Yeah, so typically in a 7.0 contract or the condo contracts that you see typically in Chicago or in the Chicagoland area have like an attorney review provision in the contract, which allows for about 5 business days, sometimes 7 business days, to have an attorney review the contract. Typically, we prepare a letter in that interim, which could include any types of disclosures that we need to make regarding just general aspects of the condition of the property, whether there's insurance claims, whether there's water issues, etc. But at the same time, we include any inspection requests that the seller may have during their inspection, and we usually negotiate credits or repairs for credits. If you are purchasing a condo, for example, we will have a period of time in which we collect the condo documents and at the same time review the condo documents to make sure that the association is financially viable, etc. So that all happens during the attorney review process. So we do a lot of negotiation within those first 2 weeks, and then reach an agreement with the other side regarding any issues that we might have with respect to condo documents, inspection issues, and also contractual issues.
Okay. So when does attorney review start?
So attorney review usually starts as soon as the client sign the contract. So it's usually when the seller signs the contract is the acceptance date. So usually the buyer signs the contract first, then it goes to the seller signs the contract, and then whatever date that is, we do 5 business days typically from the date that the seller signs the contract. It could be 5 business days if no amendments are made to the traditional contract. It could be 7 business days, but that is the time in which we need to send a letter by. So once we send the letter, that kind of keeps the attorney review open until we actually reach agreement with respect to those inspection items or those modification requests.
So does that mean that after 5 days, the attorney's like, all right, client, peace, you're on your own now?
No, so we definitely have the 5 business days basically for either side to kind of, if they have buyer's remorse or seller's remorse, do they want to proceed with the contract or not? Those first 5 business days technically do allow for either a seller or a buyer to terminate the contract if they don't want to move forward for whatever reason other than the purchase price. So, but beyond that, if the seller and the buyer are interested in moving forward, then we send a letter within that interim, and then we've got about 10 business days since then to actually reach agreement on whatever requests that we have for modifications.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for explaining that. So we also get a lot of questions about tax preparations. Can you kind of go over that and what exactly are tax preparations?
Of course. Yeah. So, I mean, in Cook County, on a general non-reassessment year, you're usually going to see about a 5 or 10% increase on taxes. So what that means is taxes are 1 year in arrears in Cook County. So you're always paying the current year, the previous year, and the current year, the following year, if that makes any sense. So like basically 2022 taxes are payable in 2023, 2021 taxes are payable in 2022, and so on. So we don't actually have a great estimate on when taxes should be. But if it's a reassessment year, which it was in 2021, this past year that just came out, we typically see more than a normal 5 to 10 increase on taxes. And that's based on whatever the assessed value that the county puts on the property. They're not looking at the property individually. They are looking at the district or the area that it's in, and then they do an assessment based on whatever that district is. So if you're like, for example, on the north side, Lakeview, you might see a 30-40% increase. In areas of River North, you might see a 60 to 70% increase. Or if you're in Pilsen or some other areas on the south side, you might see actually a decrease of tax assessments. So based on whatever that is, there's a calculation that is done based on the assessed value and the tax rate and the equalizer to determine what the taxes will be for that year. So that's on a reassessment year, which was 2021. So we were doing a lot of kind of crazy calculations during that time to determine what the taxes would be based on what the assessed value is. Now that the tax bills are out for 2021, we kind of have now an idea of what the 21, well, we not have an idea, we know what the 2021 taxes are.
Right.
And so for 2022, which is a non-reassessment year, we kind of calculate that anything between a 5 to 10% increase of the last bill will be what you will see for the following year. So that's how we'll calculate the taxes moving forward. And so now that we've gone through these tax credits, these tax escrows that we were dealing with the last year, we're gonna have a much more simplistic approach moving forward to 2022, 2023, until we see a reassessment year again in 2024.
Yes, yes. Yeah, very true. That's very important. That's something that, your attorney negotiates while we're under contract. And if you have any further questions about that, guys, please reach out, or watch this video again on replay. But yeah, thank you for explaining that. Okay, so we had a question by someone, and they said, "Why is my attorney checking the title of my property?"
Okay.
Go over that a little more and what exactly the attorneys do when they check title of a property.
Sure. So Illinois is an attorney agent state. So what that means is that you typically see attorneys involved on both the buy side and also the sale side. If you go to another state, you may or may not use an attorney. But in Illinois, New York, Connecticut, East Coast states, certain West Coast states, you're going to see attorneys involved in the purchase process. And the reason why we're involved is because we want to make sure that obviously what you are buying is going to be transferred to you without any issues, no liens, no mortgages that you're not aware of. You're going to get insurance on the property to make sure that clear title is being conveyed to you. And our job as attorneys is to make sure that what you're buying has clear title. So sellers' liens and mortgages are removed. Any previous owners' issues are removed. There's no tax liens on the property. There's no building violations, etc. So our job as buyer's attorneys is to make sure that once we get the title commitment, is what it's called, we review it and make sure that there's not any exceptions to title which would cause any issues for us to purchase the property after spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, making sure that there's not any issues with the property when you're purchasing the property. So if there's any building violations, we make sure that the seller's attorney clears them or the seller clears them. If there's any mortgages on the property that the seller has, we make sure that the seller has that paid off at closing. If there's any tax liens on the property, for example, that's paid off at closing, and then we get clear title at closing. So that is our responsibility as buyer's attorneys, to ensure that clear title is being conveyed once that warranty deed is recorded.
Okay. What are other examples of liens? So you had mentioned tax liens.
Tax liens are huge. Mostly the biggest lien is obviously the mortgage.
Mhm.
So if you have multiple mortgages on the property because you have liens on the property that you owe lenders a certain amount of money to pay back whatever mortgage they have on the property, that's the number one thing. Then it would be tax liens. It could be building violations. So like if there's certain conditions of the property that have incited like a violation, either through the city or otherwise, they'll record what's called a like a lis pendens or complaint on the property, in which case those lis pendens or issues with the property have to be cleared before we can close. What else? I mean, those are the main ones. Tax liens, foreclosures. If anyone has done a foreclosure, if there's a forbearance agreement, that will be reflected on the title. So all of those things we're responsible. A lot of them, there's IDA loans. So like if there's grants that are offered to certain buyers when they first purchased, those have to be paid off as well. If there's like any limitations with respect to like how many years it's been since they sell, usually it's like 5 years, we have to pay off that
Right.
loan as well.
Right.
So those are the main liens on the property. If you have a condo and you're not paying assessments, there could be condo lien on the property. There could be mechanics liens on the property, like if you've done work to the property and you haven't paid the contractors. So that's something that we always make sure that every contractor has been paid for any work done on the property. So then those are the main liens that you would see.
Right, right. Yeah, we sometimes have clients that whenever they're looking at a property, they say, well, can you check to see if they have any violations or any liens or whatever? And we can do certain amounts. I mean, if you go to the website,
Right.
the Chicago city website, I don't know,
Yeah.
city website, right? You can check to see if there are any violations. However, some things you can't really check, not until an attorney does that for you. And that's why
Exactly. Yeah. So we could do what's called like a track search. So if we do a track search, we get the property address, we get the PIN number, and we get the title company to actually pull the records of the specific property. So at that point in time, we can tell like who owns the property, which can be huge, especially like if there's like an estate sale or something like that. So we know who owns the property. We also know if there's tax liens on the property or any other types of liens, whether there's mortgages, whether there's like unpaid taxes, et cetera, on the property. So all of that is revealed in what's called a track search that we can order on behalf of, you guys or the client themselves.
Track search. Nice, nice.
Track search.
Now I know you talked a little bit about single family homes and condos. What about multi-units? Can you talk a little bit about that? Is there something that goes in attorney review when looking at multi-units? Anything different?
Sure. I mean, what I typically do with multi-units is I want to certify what is the legal number of units that are in the building. Because in the city of Chicago, you might see 50 to 75% of the time that when it's listed as 2-unit, it's really a 1-unit or single family, or it's a 3-unit, but it's really a 2-unit. There's like a lot of legal non-conforming units, or there's a lot of illegal units, right? None of which can prevent the sale of the property if you are aware of what's going on with that specific property. So as long as you notify the lender with respect to the number of illegal units and whether or not they're going to appraise out at those legal units.
Correct.
And if you can't consider necessarily, let's say if it's a 5-unit building and it certifies as a 3-unit legal, then with the appraiser, for example, they can't use the rents from the other 2 units to justify the income coming in for, verification purposes for respect to the debt to income ratio for financing on a 3-unit. So you have to like be pretty aware of like what you're buying. And then so like if it's a 3-unit and it's an legal non-conforming 3-unit, you can still buy the property, but you need to make the lender aware what the legal units are, what it's going to appraise at, what income you can qualify versus not qualify. Sometimes lenders will require in an appraisal to deconvert the property. So if you have to deconvert it, you have to cap the gas line, take the cabinets out, etc.
Right.
So there's a lot of things. And then if that can't happen, then you might have to do a zoning change, in which case we would refer you to a zoning attorney, in which case you would, you'd basically apply for the property to actually be a 4-unit or a 3-unit, whatever it complies with, which we
Right.
can provide access to. We don't necessarily, our firm handles zoning changes, but we can give a referral to people that do.
Marvelous.
So, and at the same time, then you want to also make sure, is the property vacant? Is it not vacant? Is there going to be tenants in the property? Are leases going to be transferred? And if they are going to be transferred, then we have to make sure that obviously we do an assignment of leases, make sure that the rents transfer at closing, prorated, security deposits transfer at closing, prorated. And making sure that the client assumes the leases as a landlord,
Mhm.
and make sure that they understand the Chicago ordinance requirements with respect to dealing with transfers of tenants and how to hold security deposits, et cetera. And I give general advice with respect to that as an attorney, with respect to how they need to handle that moving forward.
Right, right. Great information.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, attorney review can differ depending on the property, as Avni mentioned. And also going back and adding it to the multi-units, the approval for buyers also differs a lot on whether the property is a legal 2-unit or a legal 3-unit. So that's why it's also important to know how it's zoned with the city, because that will change the approval amount for the buyer. We've actually been in transactions where we've been in the buyer side. You know, we thought our buyer was buying a 2-unit or a 3-unit. It ends up being a 2-unit or vice versa. So yeah, that's very important. Okay, so now with being 17 years in the industry, I am sure you have a lot of stories, and I would love for you to share a transaction or a contract that stands out as far as, you know, why it was important to have an attorney help in the transaction, or you know, be there to help the seller or the buyer or something. Do you have a story that stands out?
Sure. I mean, I have a lot of stories of why you should have an attorney. A lot of them have to do with just basic like knowledge of like the process, right? I've had a lot of clients who enter into contracts where they go and pay for the inspection, they pay for the appraisal, and then the seller then happens to disclose that there are, oh, there's some violations on the property, right? Like building violations, no big deal, we'll be able to clear them. And then when you actually look into the process, you realize that, oh my God, there's like a list pendants on the property. And what that means is that there's actually a complaint filed from the city of Chicago or from any other entity that says that, you know, certain violations are on the property. There's certain fines that are going to be attributed, and then you have to get an attorney involved. Lenders can't lend when there's a list pendants on the property because the title is not clear. And then you're looking at a 3 to 6 month process where, you know, the seller has to obtain permits because they never obtained the permits that they needed to do the work for the property. Then you have to open up walls, and you have to have like an inspector go, city inspector go and, you know, do open up the walls and do an inspection. All of this requires like anywhere from like 3 to 6 months of time for you to be able to get to a point where you can dismiss the complaint, right? So then you've already gone through this process where you're paying for an inspection, which is $500-600. You're paying for an appraisal, which is $500-600, and then you have a rate lock, which you're not going to ever meet because you're dealing with a property that you cannot close on for like, you know, 30 to 60 days. It's going to take more like 4 to 5 months.
Months, right?
So all of these things are really important to have an attorney involved so that once you get me the contract, I can actually look up the property and take a look at, okay, what's going on with it? Are there liens on it? Are there issues with the property? Are there building violations, et cetera? And why waste our time to go through all of this process? Because a lot of representations that are made by sellers or et cetera, parties involved in the process really are there to just sell the property, but not really have any type of insight as to like how long it's going to take to get it sold. And they want to do the best that they can to get it sold, but at the same time, like our jobs as attorneys to make sure what are you buying? Like, are you making sure that you're buying it with free and clear, with not,
Right.
without any issues, that kind of thing. So that is what the role of an attorney plays in this entire process, is that we try to prevent the litigation from happening before it happens. So there's a lot of states out there where you close, you immediately have no contingencies, and then you end up suing people after the fact. Our job is to prevent the litigation from happening, prevent from the problems from happening before you purchase, so that
Mhm.
once you do, you end up buying a property that doesn't have any issues associated with it. So that's really the role of attorneys and, you know, in the purchase process or
Yes.
sale process.
Right, right. Yes, yes, very important. Yeah, you don't want to deal with problems once you've closed on a
Mhm.
home and you know, for now, like you've decorated your home nicely for the holidays, and then you find out
Yeah.
that, you know, there's other problems with the home that you could have found out before you closed on it, for
I
sure.
mean, you're making the biggest investment of your life with a purchase. You need to be cognizant of that, and also hire the people that are going to represent that, right? So you have to deal with the best and most reputable agents, experienced agents, knowledgeable agents that are going to find the home for you.
Mhm.
Find an attorney that's going to be able to navigate you through that purchase process or sale process, because this is a lifetime investment for people. And
Absolutely.
so they need to really engage with the most reputable, experienced people in the industry. And that's like what our job is as attorneys, as agents, as lenders, et cetera, is to get a team that works for our clients and gets them to be comfortable in what they're purchasing, because this is a huge investment in their lives, probably the biggest investment they'll ever make in their lives.
Yes, very true. Very true. Very well said, Avni.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Well, that concludes our episode. I think we've covered a lot. We hope this has been very informative for everyone watching. If you have found value in this video. Again, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out. And yeah, and I hope today's Tuesday, Thursday's coming up. So hopefully everyone has a great Thanksgiving. What are your plans for Thanksgiving,
Yes.
Emily?
I'm just having like my parents over, my in-laws over. We're hosting, but I'm not cooking, you know. I'm making it as simple
Good,
as possible.
good, good.
What about
Yeah.
you?
I am going to spend it at home. I have family that's leaving
Okay,
town. So I think I'm just gonna have a chill Thanksgiving. We always
I
like
like
get
it.
together and there's always people at the house. So I think this will be a nice, different Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Cool.
I'll order food.
Did you do the Thanksgiving giveaway for
Yes,
Realty of
yeah.
Chicago?
Yes, we did.
Cool.
So I was actually mentioning that in the beginning of the video. We did that yesterday. And it was very
Awesome.
successful. I mean, we gave out 300 turkeys. We
Wow.
raffled out TVs, air fryers, gift cards. So it was great. It was, and then
I
yesterday
love it.
was nice too. It wasn't that cold. So it
Yeah.
was good to be out.
It's been pretty tame weather for the last few days.
It has, it has. And we're gonna have good weather for
Oh,
Thanksgiving. So I'm sure everyone will enjoy the nice weather. Yeah.
cool.
All right, Avni. Well, thank you again for joining us.
Of
And to
course.
everyone watching, don't forget that next week, Tuesday at the same time, we're going to have another episode. And this time we'll talk about appraisals. So join us next week and have a great rest of your evening and happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, Avni. Thank you.
Bye.